Hi, so this is sort of a comfy video. It might digress from that because one of the things I notice about AI imagery is that for the most part, well, we can show with this, the subject is slap bang in the middle. Usually the horizon is as well. And although AI gives anyone the ability to make beautifully finished images, it doesn't give them the ability to make beautifully composed images. So this video is about composition. Well, I'm going to squeeze a bit of ComfyUi in as well, but it's mostly about composition and why maybe people who make images with AI should, the serious image makers, not the people who are just putting in text to image for a bit of a laugh, but you know, this medium will be used for serious image making, and as soon as you're in that place, then composition becomes a factor. So I'm thinking, well, how to demonstrate this. So I'm going to use a very simple basis. So this is our basis, which is just sea and sky. So it's essentially, you know, a blank canvas, really. We don't necessarily even see any sea when we're finished. And I'm going to choose a very unoriginal subject, a castle, which is, as in the tradition of AI, slapped straight in the middle. And I'm doing a landscape proportion as well, because landscape proportion brings more and complicated possibilities with composition, because you've got much more left and right, and you've got the horizon line, which is very important. So these aren't rules, they're just suggestions. Horizon. You get the horizon halfway up the picture if your camera is halfway up the picture. If your camera is level. If your camera is level to the ground, then the horizon is always halfway up. However, this does not make the nicest of compositions. So really the horizon needs to be either up here or down here. Some say the thirds. I don't give a lot of credibility to that. It's just that straight across the middle, by default, is not very beautiful. And the same with our subject here. It's fine, but in the middle is not terribly interesting. So if we move it, so we move it across, move it back in a bit. Now, this is more interesting, I think, because we've got all of this empty space balanced by a weight over here. In fact, I might move it even further across, I think. There we go. And a simple composition like that will often look a lot better than anything more complicated. So we can add another item, which is this tree here. And this again is, where do we place it? There isn't very good. And all compositions tend to have a focus. Where is your eye headed? Where are we going to? Where is the eye going to come in, and where is it going to rest? It doesn't have to be the castle that's the focus. The castle could be on the way in an empty bit of sky, or the sun in here maybe might be the focus. However, I think we need to soften this edge here. It goes a bit. So we could use our tree for that, maybe. So we'll move our tree down. You see these move nodes is very useful. And we'll move it across. That wasn't across. And we'll move it across. Across a bit more. And again, we don't want our tree in the middle either. There we go. Take it down a little bit. So there's our tree placed. And we've got all this empty space here. Now that isn't bad for composition, to have empty space there. It can be quite nice. So even though that's not very complicated, it's quite a nice balanced composition, because this stuff here is balanced by the empty space over here. So I'll put in the workflow so you can see this simple composition builder. I'm putting these images are just PNGs with a transparency, which you can make in Photoshop. So you can make a stock of items with this workflow and move them around and arrange them however you like. And we can also adjust the, I've got color corrects in here, so I can I can adjust the colour, and I can add a tint. But this is all. The idea is to get this harmonious and looking nice. So that is structural composition, basically. The very bare outlines. You can find learned tracts on the rules of composition. They're worth looking at because they'll make your images, you know, a step above. I hope they will anyway. Now, my process on this is to add something to add mood and to unify the whole lot. So I drop an image over the top with an image blend set to overlay, which, if you can see here, gives a more unified feel to the whole lot. So that is structural composition, i.e. where you put stuff. In as simple as possible terms, it's where you put stuff, and you'll always make a better image if you give it some thought and give a thought to balance and so forth. So we could put another tree over here, for example, might be nice, but for now I'll leave this in its simplest possible form, although the model really hates empty space, so it'll want to put a boat or an island or dolphin, God knows what. It'll want to put something in there. I think AI is like nature, it abhors a vacuum. So let's go up here. The other possibility with composition is colour harmony, which is another thing that is really ignored by most AI creators. Basically, the rule seems to be as saturated and with as many colours as possible, or just bright blue and red, or bright pink, or whatever. What I'm getting at here is subtle. It's not. So what we'll do, we'll take a mood image for this, and we might take that one. So our mood image is a famous watercolour by Thomas Goethe of the White House at Chelsea, painted in 1800 something. And this is going into IPAdapter. So IPAdapter is very good at transferring mood and style and colour and feel. So we have our ingredients here. We have our arrangement of stuff, which is commonly known as composition, and the colour and feel of that stuff. And then we have our actual content, which I'm going to put in here, and it's changed slightly. We haven't got a town, we've only got a castle sort of job. So we'll call it a palace. We'll get rid of the Baroque tone. We don't have any mountains. We have sea and coast. And you notice this is more or less a list of what we want. It's not got any emotional stuff in it. You could add ones sometimes like this. You know, they won't actually do anything. Even if you put in things like serene, it really won't do anything. An artist like James W. Turner will, but most of the words put into prompts such as, I'm trying to think of the silliest ones, 8K and masterpiece and trending on ArtStation, all this, they don't make any damn difference at all. They might change the image, but they don't improve it usually. Okay, so we'll run that and see if we get anything worth looking at. So here we are with our image back. So you see how it works. It has added a few bits of coast over there, which I don't mind. If we just allowed the AI to do it by itself, it would have put the palacey thing absolutely dead centre. And now we have a way in, and we've got somewhere to go. So we go down this path, round the corner, and then to our castle. Then we wander off into the distance. There are obviously an infinite number of ways of composing an image. This is one of the simplest, which is a big thing on one side and not a lot on the other, which is one of the simplest compositions. But you shouldn't not consider very simple compositions. Very simple compositions often work a great deal better than overly complicated ones, and most AI imagery is overly complex, and there are no spaces to rest at all. But that's the effect of AI. It really does not like stuff with nothing in it. That we don't have a boat here is a miracle. I quite like the little bits of coastline on the right hand side, but it would be quite hard to persuade it to do sea running off like our references. So as you see, there's no sign of coast over here, but it would be very hard to get the model to do that. You couldn't prompt for it. So the mood is a little somber, perhaps. So what we'll do, we'll add a more dramatic background, and we're prompting JMW Turner, so perhaps we'll put a Turner in. There we go. This is a Mallard William Turner. So this will change our colour harmony, and we'll put it through with the same seed, and we'll prompt that. So here's that one back, and you can see the change. We've kept our basic composition, etc., which is very nice, but it's warmed the whole thing. Now I could increase the weight of it to 1 and see what happens. At the moment it's having quite a gentle effect, so if you see it, it warmed our subject, but probably didn't warm our background very much, which I rather like, because we've got, again, to bore you with compositional things, we have the only warmth really in the image is here, and it contrasts with the cool on the other side. But we'll bump up the, just for fun, we'll bump up the IPAdapter. I'll run through the workflow after this one has processed, and we'll give the sampler a little more leeway to play with the image. Is that a boat? No, we haven't got any boats. It's a miracle we haven't got any boats. Okay, we'll prompt that one. So here's that back, actually after a couple of iterations where if you raise the denoise too much, it will fill this area with stuff, because as I said earlier, it doesn't like empty space, which is a problem with AI generally, is that every square inch has to have stuff in it. I'll run through how this locked the nodes here, which are quite straightforward. So we put our background image in here and do any colour correction here. I'm taking down this saturation. Every image on the web seems to be hugely saturated. And then we're resizing it to fit our composition. And it has been increased in size to adjust the size of these. So I don't want these to be too small. And we have a colour correct for each of the objects we're putting in. And the mask has to be inverted, because this is a PNG with transparency. And the mask is inverted, so that neatly cuts out our castle and drops it in position. And these numbers here move it up and down. And then the same thing happens again with our tree. The image is colour corrected, the mask is inverted, it's positioned with this, which is the same. Image composite mask is the name of the node. I've renamed it to remind me what it does. Colour tint gives an overall hue, and colour correct, it works well with colour correct, because I can give it a general colour cast. And then finally we have this noise image here. If you look closely, it's all noised, and what this does is something quite important, and that is it noises this image all over. And what that does is make it more changeable for the image to image, so it will mutate more easily into something else, so you don't have to use as higher denoise, because a higher denoise will move my composition around, and I don't want that to happen. IPAdapter, this is version 2, which is very nice. I'm using quite a simple version of it, the high strength model. I'm resizing the image because it likes, it doesn't want big images and it likes them square. So this resize means I can stick any image in here, and this will make it the right size for the adapter and shape. It will take different shaped objects, but it'll just crop and just deal with the middle part of it. The settings on the adapter are quite straightforward. I'm using the unified loader, which is in part of the new version 2, which makes life a lot easier. So the weight you can fiddle around with. 1 is very strong. I find that overwhelming. I did a a generation before the last one, and with it at 90, and it was far too much. You can make the influence of it fade away, or indeed you can make it do anything you want. So if you see, and we can do style transfer, composition if we want. We can do style transfer and see what that does. I've not tried that. And also we can do composition, so we could take composition for this. I haven't found that works terribly well, I have to say, but that's probably my fault in not getting all the settings correct. The rest of everything in here is pretty much standard. We have two LoRa's, Eldritch Digital Art, which gives a nice feel. We'll bump that up a bit actually. It gives a nice feel. It doesn't tend to move the composition around. And then there's ink and wash, because we're trying to do a watercolour. So I don't want it like a fake watercolour, but I want a bit of the watercolour feel to it. So what we'll do, we'll generate on that and see if those clicky changes I made helped, or more likely didn't. So here we are back, and the result is rather nice. We now have a better balance of composition. So you'll notice several things are happening. The sky is swooping in towards our tower. This is all much quieter out here. I don't mind that little bit of coast. It stops the eye falling off the edge of the picture. And our castle is very nice. And our composition works. We go in here. We go into our castle, which I think that's all very nice. And we go here, up the spire and out of the picture. And we have all this restful stuff over here. And that's another compositional weapon in your armoury, and that is balancing busy areas and quiet areas. AI areas tend to be busy all over, and which I don't like terribly, but there's no preventing it. Okay, we'll refine that one and see what it looks like refined. So the refining layer is here. It's very simple. It takes the same prompts. I can put a different prompt in there if I need to push this in a certain direction. It takes the same LoRa's. The denoise is quite low, and we're going up 1.5. You can see a previous one here that I blew up. And for that I'm using tiled encode and tiled decode because my graphics card isn't a 24GB job, only 16. So we'll run that and see what it looks like, blown up a little bit. So here's that back, and it took a few seeds till I found one without vast amounts of shipping or islands, or AI likes to put, really wants to put a castle there. It very much wants to put a castle in the very centre, hill or some fairy fort or something. Anyway, that's all worked well, and we've crisped up the detail, and then I do zoom in on this, upscale with the model, which makes it too sharp, but I can then mix this generation with this one, because that's another thing about composition, is you want your focus of interest, i.e. your castle, sharp, and then this all wants to fade off and be a little softer. So the sort of mania for the photographic and wanting to have everything in pin sharp focus, I don't think makes very good imagery, and nor does the is it bokeh? I don't know what it is. Anyway, nor does the having this in sharp focus and then this all blurred to hell and back again. Neither are very subtle. I'm trying to be kind there. They're horrible, both really. But and of course, AI suffers from the same problems that photography has, in that the attention of the model and the sampler is equal across the whole of the image, whereas if I was painting this image in oils, I would allow all this area and the clouds and the sky and that to be much more loosely painted. And this isn't an affectation, it actually makes the image more immersive if that's the case. But you can do that in AI, but you mostly I do it in post-processing in Photoshop. So we'll do another one to show how easy it is to change this into a. We'll put our existing castle here high in the mountains. So here we are, changing our subject. So I've added a row of mountains. So I've added another block here. You can add as many of these as you want. Each time the joined up image becomes the next destination. So for this one, this is its destination, and so on. And it's just rinse and repeat. And you come forward in layers. So now we've got. I'm getting complicated now. So now we've got our sky, which is the same as the last one, our mountains, our castle, our tree, and our atmospherics, all layered on top of one another. So we're just going a bit closer so we can see. These two go together quite well for colour-wise, so I didn't actually need to adjust them. If you need to adjust them, you can adjust them so they look like they come from the same world with the colour correct. As I have done with our castle, which is too dull because I've been wanted to use it as a silhouette elsewhere. So I've upped the contrast and everything so that our castle is a bit more punchy. Our tree is fine, it's just a silhouette really, and our tree is layered on here, and that's all the layers. So there's the tree, the castle and the mountains, all in different layers in the sky, so there's 4 layers. Then over the top we put this noised image basically to glue the whole lot together, and as you say, it gives a little bit of unified colour across the whole area. So for this we will need a different style image. You see there, watercolour by Turner, done in the Alps, and we will have to alter our prompt. That's all fine. We don't have any sea. So valley far below, wide horizon. Not much else needs to be changed other than that really. So we'll put that into the mill and see what comes out. So that's back, and a few changes happened. I didn't like the castle on the right, but with this method I didn't like the castle that was there or that it was on the right really. So I brought another castle in, which is from a Grotti 3D model there of that German castle. I can't pronounce its name. So that drops in there. That doesn't look very likely, does it? And there our tree is just filling in this, and I want it to, the composition is rather nice now because you see we've got a diagonal appearing here. So I rather like that. It's nice to get some geometrical structure into your, whether that will find its way through into the generation is we don't know. But so that's my input image now. So it's a little bit changed from how it was, and my prompt has changed a little bit. I've gone winter and snow. Not a great deal other has changed. And here we go. We have our diagonal there. We're a bit wintry and we're quite watercoloury. So the watercolouriness is coming from this, of course. This image is more of a traditional watercolour than the previous one. So this has more of a hand-painted feel to it, which I think is rather nice. I quite like that. It's a little bit burnt, but the refined stage should deal with that. I actually don't mind. It's a very typical texture for AI stuff, but for watercolours, strange enough, it's very close to watercolour paper texture. So I actually don't mind that terribly for this sort of thing. When you get that texture, though, it means the model is struggling a bit, and you need to put some quality stuff in your prompt here. But usually that is dealt with on the next upscale and refine. So we'll go ahead and upscale and refine that. I think it'll change quite a bit because I think I'm going to upscale it at quite a high denoise, maybe even 50, 55 even, and we'll adjust our prompt slightly as well. Okay, so I'll set that off and we'll see what that looks like. Right, so here it is back, and it's a good step forwards. I'm quite pleased with that. That's nice. It's got this nice diagonal running through here, and we've got a very nice cool to warm, which is being helped by this image here, which does the same. So do you see that the cool to warm is happening there? It's not happening there very much, but the adapter image has really come through in this area here, and in the refined one you can see it all looks very nice. I doubt, and as you see, this image is much less burnt. If I do a final upscale here, which I'll do very quickly, it'll get rid of that burning as well. But as I say, as it's a watercolour, I quite like that. I probably will prefer this one to the upscale, which, as you see, is very smooth. But I prefer the look of the lower res, and this isn't that low res. I might do a simple upscale in Photoshop on this. I think it'll make a better job of it. Here it rather takes away the quality, I feel, and makes it all a bit too sharp, even into the distance. But I still might use some of that on the buildings here and there, just maybe sharpen up just the front edges of these, and I'll put some of the completed images at the end of the video. I think I better stop there. I'm sorry it's a bit of a rambling video. I'll put the workflow in. This arrangement here is quite fun. I might, as a little end on the next part, I might just put a little another section quickly on to show how I make the PNGs and in Photoshop. Then you can make your very own compositional kit, and you can have as many layers as you want. You can do anything with it, really. But it does have a great advantage in that I don't have to keep on jumping back to Photoshop to remake an image. And if I want to nudge my castle across, it's a couple of clicks, and I can nudge it across and generate, and nudge it across and generate. And the same with colours. And this image doesn't have to be as good as you think. I mean, this is a terrible image, but it has all of the compositional features and the subject features that I want. And it's hard to believe that that image, I'll take it across and we can compare. So it's hard to believe that that image has provoked that. But if you look carefully, everything here is reflected here in some way. As a guide, it's worked pretty much perfectly. So all of my compositional features, which are what I've been rabbiting on about in this video, all my compositional features have been carried through to the final image. So I've retained that control, and by using the IPAdapter, all of the mood has been controlled as well. So the AI has just filled in the gaps for me and glued it all together. Okay, I'll go to Photoshop and I'll show you how I make the PNGs. So here we are in Photoshop with a potential mountainy image. You can cut it out a couple of ways. You can use the old-fashioned cut it out with a lasso, like so. And you can afford to do it really roughly. It really will not make any difference to the eventual generation. Right, you can cut it like that. But in these modern times, you can use this thing here, which is and it'll select the sky. And then you go select inverse, you float that, Command J, get rid of your background, put the background in the bin, and you're left, as you see here, you're left with transparency here. Now, if you try and just save this as a PNG, Photoshop really helpfully won't save it with the transparency, which is, I find, stupid and annoying. So what you have to do is go to File, Export, Export As, and then you see this little button here, Transparency. And you also have to, I don't think you have to on this, on the automatic one, on the other one, I knew there's a reason why I didn't go for the simple one. The simple one, it'll crop it to the top of the mountains, whereas I want to retain the proportions. So I want the blank area. But Photoshop will very unhelpfully, if you use the other export, the simple export, quick export, it'll crop. It'll crop to the top there. But I'll quickly show you how I might do a castle. So here we have this fabulous castle, and you can do the same thing. The subject will probably pick the castle for us. There you go. There's just the castle. If you want to select the hill, it's slightly harder. You go shift and drag, do a bit of the hill, and then I grab the rest with the lasso. So there's our castle grabbed. So there's our castle cut out, all lovely. So again, Control J, dump your background, and you have a castle. I tend to do a levels adjustment on it after, make it a bit stronger, and I also desaturate, because if I desaturate it gives it more chance to be any colour. So if it's got a very, very strong hue, then that hue will come through, and you might not want that. So this could be given a blue haze over it, and it'll take. But if it's a bright orange and you try and put a blue haze over it, it won't work quite so well. And I very often resize them to a fairly, well, this one's all right, to a multiple of 128 essentially. Okay, that's it. I hope the bits on composition weren't too boring or didn't sound like I was lecturing, but really compositional know-how is quite missing from AI production, AI images, and it's really a big part of image making. And if you're serious about making images, then it's worth getting your head around it, because it'll improve your final images a lot, and you won't just get that babe with the unfeasible anatomy in the very centre of the picture, which we just see again and again. If you go to Civitas, just about all of the pictures have no compositional thought whatsoever. There is only subject, detail and style. But composition and colour harmony are two of the big tools you have to make nice imagery that will draw people in and make them give you likes and stuff, if that's important to you. Okay, well, thanks for listening to my rants, and that's the lot.